Shannon Waller here, and welcome to this episode of the Team Success Podcast. Today, I'm going to share with you one of Strategic Coach's fundamental teamwork strategies, and that is to focus on rewardable versus punishable behavior. Now, as I say that, you're kind of like, okay, yes, Shannon, I've thought that through before, which is great. And I want to remind you, because it is one of those things in my experience that needs reminding, especially when we're upset about how something has happened. Something's gone down in a way you thought, oh my gosh, they should know better. You get really frustrated. And it's so easy to snap at someone. I know this because I've been guilty of that. But I want to share with you why I think it's really important to bite your tongue if necessary and really have your whole emphasis for yourself, your team leaders, be on making it a whole cultural premise in your company that you focus on rewardable, not punishable behavior. Here's why I think this is so important. Because if your company is growing, if you have a company that is based on innovation, and frankly, if you employ any type of technology, things are changing quickly. The speed and power of the microchip doubles every 18 months, and the price goes in half. So it's a 4 times multiplier with technology alone. Things are changing in your business every 18 months, in your industry, whether you want them to or not. All of us need to innovate and take initiative and respond to those changes, if not be the ones actually creating them. So to do that, we need to all be really capable of taking risks, and we need to be confident in our ability to do that. If someone who's working with me is always focusing on what I do wrong, I learn how to play really, really good defense. I am no longer playing offense. This is why I think it's so important to focus on rewardable versus punishable behavior. And the other big premise behind it is that you want to find what people are doing right and make a fuss over that. Reward them. If they're introverted, great. Do it as a note of appreciation or something one-on-one. If they like applause, great. Publish their name in the newsletter. Let people know. Talk out loud. Make sure everyone claps. Whatever it is. But really reward the behavior that you want to see more of. You've probably heard the expression, what gets measured gets done. Well, the second half of that is what gets rewarded gets repeated. So if you want to see a repeat of great behavior, be it how someone handled a customer service issue with a client, or how someone closed a sale, or how someone said no to one of your clientele gracefully, how they problem solved a team situation, how they handled their budget, whatever it is, you really want to make sure that people know when they're doing things right. Because guess what? Then they'll do more of it. So I think it's really key that people understand what your value system is. I know oftentimes I'm busy, I'm focused on doing my own work, and I may just think that people know what they're doing is right. They don't. That's what I've learned after all of these years, is that people need to be reminded about what they're doing right. I think I've really made it, my team can agree or disagree, I've made it a habit when I really notice something and appreciate it and I find it of value, I point it out. I do this with my team. I do this with my friends. I do this with my family. I want them to know what I really appreciate when they're doing something that really works. Now, of course, this is my opinion, and I'm not the only audience for them, so I hope they get that from other people they work with too. But it adds oxygen to the system. It adds lubrication to the system. Use whatever metaphor you want, but it really does help things go more smoothly. And people look forward to working with people where they know there's going to be some positive feedback. That's really nice to work with people who are acknowledging. I want you to think of the word appreciation in a very specific way. If we think about appreciating value for stocks, it's when they're going up. So when we appreciate what other people are doing, we increase the value of that. They understand, oh, this makes a difference. Now, the great thing is, the more they're doing behavior that you really like, guess what tends to go away or diminish? Behavior that you don't like. So some of that behavior, you're like, oh, that drives me crazy, almost naturally in some cases tends to diminish. You don't have to point it out. Now, unfortunately, that's not always the case. So let me talk about behavior that drives you crazy, because the conversation would be incomplete if I didn't talk about that. And if you haven't heard the other expression, there's lots of them about this particular topic, is to praise in public and to criticize in private. So if you do have an issue, couple things about it. Number one is always criticize the behavior, not the person. Let me say that again. Always criticize or critique the behavior, say what isn't working, not the person. And don't also make assumptions about why someone did that. Maybe that's how they were raised. Maybe that's the last person who managed them did things. Who knows? It's actually not up to you to figure that out. But you can say, it really works when you do this. It really doesn't work for me when you do things this way. Would you please agree to stop? And then hopefully get their agreement on that. Most times they had no idea that it was so disruptive or so disturbing in terms of how they were doing things. So again, I meant to express this today. But don't make assumptions. Remember grade 5, the word assume makes a of you and me. That's exactly what's true. I used to guess. I used to fancy myself a little bit of insight into human psychology. I finally realized I have no idea. I don't know always why people do what they do. But if I can let them know how their behavior is working for me, if it's working for me, then I'd let them know and let usually people around them know. And if it's not working for me, one-on-one to say, hey, could you please do this differently? Because this is how I feel when you do this, or this is what the response is with other people. Then they have a chance to course correct without losing face. Their ego gets to get out of the way a little bit. And I remember some very powerful coaching for me when I was younger that has totally shaped how I do things. And I really appreciated how people gave me some very direct feedback. And I'll give you an example. This was years ago. I was probably 18. This was a very long time ago. It was one of those kind of cocky 18-year-olds, and I was working at this particular event center, and I thought I knew it all. And so my supervisor, she would tell me something. I'd go, I know. Of course, I actually really didn't. This was me trying to look good or save face. I don't know what I was trying to do. And finally, one day, she said in the most genuine way possible, she just sat me down and said, Shannon, every time you say, I know, I feel like you're spitting on me. And I was mortified. I was like, oh, she was a really nice person. I really liked her and respected her. I stopped cold. I don't think those words came out of my mouth again when working with her. That was the last thing I wanted to do. And I had no idea. But she came at it not from a, you're an idiot, you're wrong. And then I just would have tussled with her or polarized with her somehow. Instead, she came at it from a really heartfelt way and told me how she felt. Boom, far more effective. And I was really appreciative because, teenagers can be that way sometimes. And I got to do a really fast course correction as a result of her feedback, to the point where I still remember the conversation incredibly clearly. So it's one of those things that changed how I do things. It changed my behavior. It changed how I came across, and I think I'm a much, much better person for that. So think about when you were criticized in private or publicly. How did each of those feel? How would you like to get the feedback? Well, if you're like most people, you'd much rather have your faults pointed out to you in private so that you can make a public course correction and do it gracefully. That's what you want to let other people do too. And when you really focus on operating this way, you really start to show up as a very powerful leader in your organization. And that could also be in your family. It can be with your friends, where you don't take the reaction road. You don't just respond. You don't just kind of repeat what's happening to you. You transform it. You actually take it to a higher level and you see what's good and you see what can be improved and you handle it, I like to use the word gracefully. So that is really appreciated by your team, by other people who work with you, and then you get to really be seen as a class act. You're seen as someone who is not reactive, who can take the high road, who can have some control over your emotions, and present yourself in a way that's very admirable. Other people will look up to you the more you're able to do this. And I have to tell you, some days it's just really, really hard. There's something you see going wrong, and maybe it's an emergency. You just need to jump in and you push someone out of the way and you rescue it, which is fine in the moment. But frankly, your team doesn't learn anything from that. So again, part of this is really letting people sometimes make mistakes, sometimes letting people fail, letting people learn their own behavior, and really focusing in on what's working and letting them know gently and appropriately if things are not. Last thing I want to share with you is what to look forward to when you focus on rewardable, not punishable behavior. What happens is you have people growing into every way that you reward behavior. They are motivated. It's not just by money, by the way. Financial rewards are fabulous, but verbal rewards, fun, bragging rights. We have fun rewards in our company that are, if they're tied to money, it's a very small amount. We call them monkey awards. And you get nominated by your peers for having done great work. And then your name gets published to the whole company. that's pretty cool. And then people who nominate, people who are noticing and attentive to what other people are doing, also get acknowledged for that. So you have all of a sudden this culture of focusing on what's working. It is very easy to get taken down by what's not, either in your company or outside. So by focusing on what is working, where people are succeeding, where they are making a contribution, you change the energy of your team. You change the focus of your team. You change the attention of your team to good things. And all of a sudden, you have people who can't wait to grow, playing offense, not defense, who are suggesting new things, taking initiative, taking risks, innovating on your behalf. That's powerful. If we want to be winning as an organization, this is what we need to be doing. We need to be encouraging people and letting them know that there's a little bit of room for failure. We're going to focus on what's working and learn from what's not, what's called a learning organization. And that's the culture that we have here. And I love it. I try new stuff all the time. Most of the time it works. Some of the time it doesn't. No big deal. I get to learn, our team gets to learn. It's when we're not learning that I actually get frustrated. To me, I don't want to say this, but punishable behavior is when someone refuses to learn from something that didn't work. That doesn't make any sense to me. There's some brain cells missing at that point. I'm like, okay, why are you here? So that's really the only major failure in my way of thinking about things. Back to our main theme, just to wrap up, is what you will create, how you'll win as a result of focusing on rewardable behavior versus punishable behavior. There are so many positive results from doing things this way. There's so many great things that will bubble up from your whole team as a result of having this particular attitude. So again, just remember, what gets measured gets done, and what gets rewarded gets repeated. So focus on what's working, do that in public, and then criticize in private. Hope this has been a great reminder for you. I know you're probably already working in this direction, but certainly make sure you pass on this thinking to other people under you. As you bring in new leaders to your company, make sure that they have this mindset as well, because lots of people come in with very opposite training, and you may need to make sure that they're focused on rewardable behavior versus the opposite. Thanks very much for listening. Talk to you soon, and as always, here's to your team's success. Hi, Shannon here, and thank you very much for listening. If you like what you heard today, please take a moment to rate the Team Success podcast on iTunes, and we'd love it if you'd share the podcast with anyone else who could benefit. If you're interested in learning more about the Strategic Coach program for entrepreneurs, visit us at strategiccoach.com or the Strategic Coach channel on YouTube. For free downloads and more team success strategies, visit teamsuccesshandbook.com.